Yesterday, we took a look at the predicted order of finish from Baseball America for the teams in the SEC. They had Ole Miss at 6th in the SEC West and Mississippi State at 7th. Today, we got the release from the conference office with the coaches' predicted order of finish. In the East, they've got Florida winning the Eastern Division, followed by Tennessee and Vanderbilt. Tennessee getting 2 first-place votes, Vanderbilt getting 1. South Carolina in 4th place, Kentucky in 5th place, Georgia in 6th place, and Missouri is picked last in the SEC East. SEC West, coaches predicting that Arkansas is going to win the West this year. They got 9 of the 14 first-place votes. The other 5 went to LSU, the reigning national champion. Texas A&M picked 3rd. Alabama, super regional team a year ago, picked 4th. Auburn is picked 5th. Ole Miss 6th, then once again Mississippi State picked 7th. The SEC champion, as predicted by the league's coaches, Arkansas with 9 votes, 3 for LSU, and 2 for the Florida Gators. That's, of course, the regular season champion, not the SEC tournament champion. So, we've seen Baseball America. We've seen the ESPN coaches poll. We've seen the D1 top 25. All of them have both Ole Miss and Mississippi State unranked going into this 2024 season. Obviously disappointing years a season ago for both, with both missing the postseason. What does this mean? I mean, I get on the surface level, it means that relatively speaking, the coaches and the people that cover the sport don't think that these two teams are going to be very good this year. I get that. But let's take it a step deeper. What does it mean for two of the proudest programs in all of college baseball, two of the most supported programs in all of college baseball, two of the great stadiums in all of college baseball, two places where it matters a lot, on the heels of missing the postseason, being picked to finish in the last 2 spots of their division going into a new season?
It's kind of Pollyanna or whatever, but it does very much demonstrate how difficult the SEC is. I mean, how many teams in the country would trade their roster for Ole Miss or Mississippi State's right now? A ton. Yeah. I mean, a ton. In power conferences, quote unquote, would change their roster for Ole Miss and Mississippi State's without even thinking about it. And they're picked to finish last in their division.
You know, I spent all of football season, or all of the offseason, arguing against the predictions. And everybody thought State was going to be bad, and I thought they were going to be good, and we saw how that panned out. I'm going to go with the predictions on this one. I'll let it play out. But, I mean, I get it. You've watched this team 2 seasons in a row for Mississippi State. And for Ole Miss, yes, they won a national title 2 years ago, but let's not act like prior to the start of the NCAA tournament that was a good team. They struggled throughout the regular season. They were, we all know, they made a 30 for 30 about it. They were the last team in. So Ole Miss is, their national title notwithstanding, it hasn't been the 2 best regular seasons. It just feels weird to say, I know, but I mean, you get where they're coming from. So, and you're asked, what does that mean? It means when we get to May, at least one coaching search is going to happen, and maybe 2.
I'm going to continue to push back on you on that.
That's fine.
I don't think that's something that is. I don't think it's anywhere close to in play at Ole Miss.
Okay.
I just don't.
So you just. I'm not trying to put you in a corner or anything, but if they miss Hoover again, you don't think that seat's hot?
I didn't say I don't think the seat's hot, and I certainly didn't say that it's not. There's not an uncomfortable conversation. But I don't think Ole Miss is going through a coaching search.
Okay.
Unless Mike Bianco decides that he's had a great run and on his own he is ready to retire or he is ready to move on, or some other college baseball program sweeps in and makes him an offer that he just simply can't refuse. I think those are the only scenarios where you see any sort of leadership change with Ole Miss baseball.
Okay.
I mean,
I think it's much simpler here in Starkville. I think if you miss the postseason, it's time for a new coach. I don't see any way you could go otherwise.
I understand that. But it's also another year, right? I mean, Mississippi State didn't make a change last year.
No.
They were, at the end of the season, they were not quite 2 years removed from winning a national championship. And so we stand here on February the 8th. Ole Miss is 18 months removed from winning a national championship?
I would
20 months
say,
removed from winning a national championship?
I would say that had State made a move last year, we all would have been like, we understand. We understand why they did that. 2 years removed from a national title, back-to-back last-place seasons missing Hoover, whatever it is. Not acceptable at a program like Mississippi State. You can say the same for Ole Miss. 2 years removed from a national title, then back-to-back finishes missing Hoover. Not acceptable for a program that puts it, as you said, where baseball matters and where you put in the amount of investment that these two programs have put. We haven't talked about Ole Miss and their schedule, their stadium expansion that seems to be coming, their stadium renovation. The Elko statue is getting made. I mean, the amount of money Mississippi State and Ole Miss have put into these programs, you can't continue to miss. Never mind the NCAA tournament, not getting to Hoover. That can't be allowed to happen at the rate it's happened these past 2 years for State. And then if with Ole Miss, if they finish sixth in the West, they're going to be tight getting to Hoover.
But you also could paint a picture of a Western Division that is so incredibly competitive that sixth in the West is good enough to be in the NCAA tournament.
You could. It'd be tough to not make Hoover.
I
and
agree
make
it would be hard.
The tournament.
I agree it would be difficult. But, I mean, I think the SEC is that good.
That's very good.
I do think if you're having to evaluate, and this applies to both. It applies to both Ole Miss and Mississippi State. You have to look at why. Why did 2023 go as poorly as it did for Ole Miss? Well, a big part of it is injuries. And I get that injuries are part of baseball. But Ole Miss lost last year its number one starter and its closer from the previous year, both of who were supposed to be back in pitching. Now, does that make 10 games difference for Ole Miss? I don't know that it does that. But the combination of a healthy Hunter Elliott and a healthy Josh Mallitz makes Ole Miss a different team than it was a year ago, without question. In the same way that 2 years ago, a healthy Landon Sims makes Mississippi State a different team. Now, you cannot rely on that forever. And Ole Miss went out and they added some really important pieces in the transfer portal. I think pitching is the thing that you're watching most closely for Ole Miss, especially with the loss of, here we go again with an injury, Xavier Rivas, just last Friday night. So one of your expected weekend starters is out for the year after the UCL tear. But will some of those young guys that pitched and got experience a year ago, will they take a step forward? And these pieces that they have added position/offensively in the transfer portal, what kind of an impact are they going to make?